Hey, I just got back from lunch. Did you finish that report yet?
Well, not exactly. Still working on it. I'm not finished just yet. I got a little sidetracked, but I will get them to you first thing this afternoon.
It is first thing this afternoon.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I am working on it. I'll have
What do you mean that the report isn't finished yet?
I'm still in the process of working on it. I've just been a little distracted.
Distracted. Our meeting starts in an hour.
I can have it.
No. What were you doing? Were you listening to another hunting podcast again? I swear, I give the staff in this office the freedom to do whatever they want to do as long as they meet a deadline. That is the first bullet underneath your job description. Pays attention to detail and deadlines. And deadlines. With emphasis. F-O. Dude, are you even listening to me right now?
Hey guys, if you're looking for a quality bow dealership near Newcastle, Pennsylvania, look no farther than Williams Archery down in Edinburgh, PA, just minutes west of the city. They offer Hoyt, PSE, Elite, Bear, and many more brands. Go check out their bow fishing equipment, or stop in for hands-on shooting lessons. Give Ron and Linda a call at 724-667-9660.
Welcome to episode 44 of the Whitetail Distraction Podcast. My name's Austin, and finally joining me back in the Rack Shack again, Charles Headland. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. The finally was a little bit, exaggerated, okay? Yeah. 2 intros I miss, yeah. And I get a finally.
Oh, man.
That's not even right.
I have a question for you.
What's up?
Did you find Ted Nugent in your world travels?
I looked hard. I had a lead that he was down in Florida, so I went to Florida for 4 days to look for him, and I searched every beach and I searched every good food spot possible, and I did not find him.
Wow.
So I think I got garholed on the Ted Nugent whereabouts.
Well, I mean, I guess that happens.
Well, I really want to get a hold of him and just find out why he keeps dogging us and not coming on his podcast.
Yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. I love it.
He's promised 12 times, I swear. But I didn't find him. I did not.
Wow.
Unfortunately, but I did find really nice beaches and good places to eat in Florida.
Dude, hey, that's okay. I mean, at least you got a good trip out of the deal, right?
Yeah, I guess, podcast paid for the trip and all. It was podcast worthy, so. Oh, wait, you didn't know about that?
Oh, damn, dude.
Oops.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
So, yeah, in other news, we had a kind of a local guy on.
We did. I was actually pretty excited about this.
Yeah.
You're the man you're our scheduling guy, man.
It's kind of what I do,
It's kind of what I do, and you told me that you got him, and I did a little bit of research and a little bit of listening, and I was very, very surprised and very delighted by it.
Yeah, and he mentioned a few things that I didn't even know in this episode, like he went to The Rock. The Rock. I was just literally in the campus yesterday.
Yeah, SRU, man.
Hell yeah. And I'm like, really? And then, mentioned that he Zealy Noble area, and he lived like within 5 minutes where I'm working now. It's just like crazy, and he lives in PA and he's getting it done. But the surprise guest, since we haven't mentioned his name yet, Beau Martonik.
It's Ted Nugent. It is Ted Nugent. Chuck actually found him. He's just bullshitting the whole episode.
Yeah, was Ted from PA?
No.
I wish he was.
No. He
seems like he's from PA. It was not Ted Nugent. If you guys have ever listened to the East Meets West Hunt podcast, he could have been my brother. Literally, he might still be my brother. I don't know. But the way we grew up, the similarities and stuff we talked about, it was literally that grew up 2 doors down from us.
I agree.
Crazy.
A Greedo burrito.
But he lives in a little cooler area than us,
Yeah.
What's that, 2.1 million acres of public land?
So you guys all know where we're located with the New York and West Virginia border, right on the Panhandle there. He is like north central to the Panhandle. He's up in like where the mountain lions live.
Oh yeah, he is. Mountain lions, giant rattlesnakes, chupacabra, Bigfoot himself.
Bigfoot himself lives there, obviously.
Yeah, that's the area he's in, and he's killed 2 Bigfoots. He's literally created a tornado with a rattlesnake, a black tornado with a rattlesnake. The man is an absolute legend.
And he has a mustache to back it up.
Oh, the stash.
Oh, man.
I'm glad you brought that up because I actually forgot to bring that up in this episode, and I do apologize for everyone out there that was thinking about the stash and considering giving him good comments about it during the episode, and I totally forgot.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It is legendary, though.
It is legendary. That is one of the best stashes I've ever seen, and anybody that can pull that off, they can be my friend any day.
I agree. It is almost as good as Ryan Callahan from, First Light, Meat Eater, and all those guys. It's very, very close.
They have very similar. I think he's going for Ryan Callahan.
I think so.
He's going to get him.
He's going to get him in the bag.
Yep, he's younger. His facial hair grows faster. I don't know if that's true.
I don't either.
I totally made that up.
Yeah, it's all good, though.
But this is a great episode, guys. I hope you enjoy it. And as always, man, we really enjoy everybody out there that listens to us. I don't think we touch on that enough. Like, if you're just listening to this for the first time, man, I don't listen to the old ones.
Yeah, don't listen to the old ones. Just go from here on out. We're getting better, I promise.
Yeah, but we do appreciate it. We don't probably cover that as much as we should. We have in several episodes, but we do this for you guys, and we really enjoy it, and we have a lot of fun with it. So I'm glad people out there still randomly tag us on social media. That is like
the coolest thing in the world.
That's like Christmas morning to
Absolutely.
me. When I see a random tag, I'm like, who is this? And I look into them, I'm like, wow, I would have never known about these guys.
Yeah.
So that excites me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also enjoy when people just randomly reach out to us on social media and say, hey, like, love listening to the show, just found it. Like, you guys are awesome. You guys are the real MVP. We don't take it for granted, I promise you. And
Absolutely.
We answer everybody. We don't ever be like, that guy. We do enjoy talking to everybody and getting a little bit of feedback and finding out who you guys want to listen to and what kind of topics you guys want us to cover. I mean, we take that into consideration and we try and work our way around it and bring people on that you guys want to hear. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's bring Beau on the phone.
Absolutely. Let's get him on.
I like it.
All right, guys. On the phone with us today, we have Beau Martonik from the East Meets West Hunt podcast. What's going on, Beau?
Nothing much, guys. Just cooling off in the air conditioning room here when it's about 90 degrees outside, which I'm not complaining. It's not raining, so I'll take that any day.
Ain't that the truth? We've had enough rain here to satisfy any forest area or Seattle, possibly. I think we're giving Seattle a run for their money this year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we are. That's for certain.
Oh, man. So that's awesome. Well, we got you on the podcast here today, and we've been following you for a little while now, and we really like your stuff, but we like to start everybody off way back when, at the very beginning. So why don't we start off with who you are and what you do for a living?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Beau Martonik, and I'm from north central Pennsylvania, specifically the Elk County region. So I grew up here my whole life and moved away for a little bit, went to college at Slippery Rock University, and then ended up, sticking around the Pittsburgh area for a little bit, and just kind of got drawn back to wanting to be back in this, big woods setting. So where I live is right on the edge of the Allier National Forest, as well as 2.1 million acres of public lands in the form of state forests and state game lands. So it was pretty obvious why I had chose to, come back here. And so what I do for a living is I'm an environmental health and safety engineer for a manufacturing company. And so I do that. That's my day job. I'd love to, be saying that I'm doing something hunting related full time, but as most of our cases, that's not the case. And so that's what I do full time. And then, also on the side, I run, as you said, the East Meets West Hunt podcast. Just, started that a little over a year ago to be able to help people, from the East Coast plan, adventure style hunts, whether that's out west or even some of Pennsylvania through the Appalachian region and everything else. So, and within that, do some outdoor writing and just a whole bunch of stuff related to hunting. It seems like that kind of fully engulfs my life to a point of fault at sometimes.
I dig it, man. I dig it.
Yeah.
Well, growing up in yours beautiful PA, how did you start into hunting, man?
So I'm one of the lucky ones that grew up in an extremely passionate hunting family. And so I think if I didn't grow up as a hunter, I probably would have been, given away at an auction or something at some point. Yeah, my family's huge into hunting and specifically archery hunting. So I grew up shooting a bow, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years old, and really got into it from the beginning. So hunted with my dad and my grandfathers and my whole family. Like I said, we have a camp that we go to every year in archery season and then in rifle season as well. And it's so funny because when I tell most people, from Pennsylvania where I'm from, they're like, oh, I have a camp up there. I know someone who has a camp there. And our camp's like literally right down the road from our house. It's just kind of like a getaway. Like I could walk there if I wanted to. So it's pretty funny. But so that's kind of how I got, started in it, was just with my family. And then when I went off to college, met, a group of guys that were really, into hunting as well. So it just kind of kept it going from there and kept the steam rolling.
Nice.
Yeah, man, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I feel like that's kind of similar stories between all three of us, honestly. Like, we all grew up hunting. Our families hunted. We all kind of went to camps and
yeah,
the traditional PA hunter story, I guess.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, Pennsylvania, we're really lucky because the hunting heritage here is like no other place. Like it's something hard to describe to people that don't live here. But at least where I grew up, you didn't have school on the first day of rifle season, and we still have that as a holiday for work too. So that's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. It doesn't go that way with my work, but it did that with school. I wish it went that way with work, but yeah.
Yeah, when I lived down by Pittsburgh, it wasn't that way, and I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like, even if I was tagged out, like I love going to camp and everything else. I'm like, what do you mean I'm gonna have to take a vacation day? Or usually I had them all burned up in archery season, so I'd have to pull a sick day on that one.
Attaboy.
I'm right there with you, man.
Priorities. Gotta have them right.
That's right. Pretty much save all my days for our out-of-state hunting trip, and then maybe one day for the first day of rifle, because I never want to miss that day. I mean, that goes deep in our roots. And my dad doesn't even hunt with a gun anymore, but it's like something he'll never miss. Just the camp style and the atmosphere. It's just so much fun, man. I love it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. That's the thing. Like, I really don't hunt with a gun a whole lot. This past year, I didn't fill my archery tag, so I went out with a gun for the first time in like 7 years, and it's just it's still so much fun. Like, and even when I didn't, have a tag in my pocket, I was always, going with the family, whether we were doing like, a couple man push drives or just, just getting out and just like you said, the hunting heritage is so strong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, you mentioned that you didn't fill your archery tag last year and you had to go out in rifle season. How was your season in general? Was it pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I can't complain. I mean, I got to hunt probably more than I ever did. And that was all mostly because I was in the transition between jobs, and I used up all my vacation at one job, and then I got them to agree to use the vacation in my second job all in the last, couple months of the year. So I spent a lot of time hunting, but I just wasn't connecting with things. I had a week off at the end of October in Pennsylvania, and it rained just about every day. So I didn't, had one encounter with a really good deer and never ended up being able to draw the bow on them. And then I went to Alberta, actually, to the bow zone, and I hunted up there. It was my first ever outfitted hunt that ever went on. And that was a really cool experience. Had an encounter with a truly like world-class deer on the first night, but he was on the other side of the property boundary and was unable to be able to pull the trigger on him. But, so I missed what I would consider the best week in PA then, but again, I can't complain. I was in Alberta, so,
yeah.
But it was funny because I'm up there and, the land of the giants for whitetails, and all I'm getting is pictures from my whole family, and they're all tagging out that week.
Man.
Like my dad and 3 of my uncles, my cousin, they all killed great deer. And, it was killing me because that's always the week I'm, at camp there. But, like I said, I was in Alberta in -degree weather, hunting just absolute giant deer. So it was awesome.
Which week of the season was that, Beau?
That would have been the last week of the
Okay.
season. So like November 4th through the 9th, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, so around here, like our biggest time where bucks were really hitting the ground was right around that Halloween time.
October 25th to probably November 2nd.
Yeah.
Deer were hitting the ground around here big time, man.
It was crazy, man. And the deer activity was way up. Austin and I both filled a tag within, a day of each other or something like that?
Yep.
And our buddy filled one. I mean, they were all just dropping like crazy.
Really?
It's just
that's
weird.
Funny. That was the week after, at least, where I'm at, it seemed like, because I was out that time frame that it sounds like you guys had luck, and it was just raining the whole time, and there wasn't much rutting activity that I saw, at least. So I just, the last morning before I had to get on the plane, I went out. It was like November 3rd or 4th, and I had a really good one come by me, but he was just, head to the ground and wasn't reacting to calls or anything.
Yeah.
But so like there's like, I kind of think in PA like 2 different times. The first cold front in the end of October. I love that time.
Oh my goodness.
Me too, man.
I'll be in the woods no matter what, that first cold front there. And then I like the last few days of the season. On November 8th through like the 12th. That's when I seem to kill just about all my deer.
Yeah. I think if work would just let you put in your request for the first cold front in late October, I would be so money. Like, that is the time frame that I would love to have my week off and just be in the woods every single day, because it is absolutely amazing usually.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I remember it was in 2017, which was like the best hunting season that I'd ever experienced. It was my girlfriend at the time. She went out with the bow on that first cold front. I had to work. I couldn't get off that day. And it was like October 25th, maybe even. And she killed a deer that scored 178 inches.
Holy man.
Baby.
Yeah. It was unreal. Like, it just, everything just happened, like it was like that first cold front. Does are, thinking about coming into heat, and the bucks are starting to go looking for them. And I've, experienced that in other, situations where anywhere from that 25th to Halloween can be just so good with the right weather.
Yeah. Yeah. 2017. It's funny you mentioned that. That was our family's best year by far. I have 3 brothers that archery hunt with me, and my dad as well. And in 3 consecutive days, I was just looking at it. It was October 16th, 17th, and 18th. All 3 of my brothers each day tagged out on a buck. So
no way.
Yeah, sure shit. I was working all 3 of those days. And the 4th day, I said, "You bet your ass I'll be in the woods somewhere." Snuck out for like an hour and a half, didn't see shit. But I did fill my tag last minute on the biggest buck I've ever killed, and it was by far wrapped up the best season we've ever had. Far none. It was awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy like that. So that I remember that specifically because I had run a lot of trail cameras, and I remember I have it written down there's a cold front that came through around that time frame.
Yep.
In October, and my trail cameras lit up with day walkers, just great bucks hitting. And usually like that time, I've never killed one in that middle of October time frame. So that was interesting to me to see that. But, and then I think when I filled my first tag, I filled my one in PA on November 8th, and then I drove, I stayed that night there. The next day, I, skinned the deer and did everything, processed the meat, and then I drove to Ohio through the night. And then November 10th, I killed a buck there the first day when I was in there. So that was like just a crazy, experience to be able to do that. And that's been the only time I've successfully, done that back to back in both the states.
That is absolutely awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty jealous about that. That's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny, in 2015, a similar situation happened where I killed one in Ohio on November 11th, and I drove all the way back for the last day, which was like November, I think, and, of PA, and I had the biggest buck that I had ever hunted come in, and I missed him. So it would have been a double end too, but I just screwed it up.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, one thing I was kind of interested in talking to you about is how did you kind of get bit by the western bug?
Yeah. So that's a funny story. I had never, like when I grew up and stuff, I never even really watched much Western hunting on TV. It just, what I saw was like the old like Primos videos and stuff of them elk hunting some of these ranches and everything, and just thought it was something that was out of something I could ever do and out of reach. And none of my family had ever hunted out west, so I just never really thought about it much until I think it was on Instagram or YouTube or something. I came across Cameron Haynes and saw that he was, doing all these, elk hunts and talking about, do-it-yourself hunting and just basically doing what we do here in Pennsylvania, but doing it out west.
Yeah.
And so I bought his book, Backcountry Bow Hunting, and I read it, and I was like, all right, I'm planning an elk hunt this year. I had no idea where to start, but just kind of dove into it head first and got my brother and my cousin to do it with me. And we just went to Colorado, picked a spot on the map. And it's funny because his book's pretty over the top as far as, like he is with going to extreme places. So I thought, I got to find the steepest, most rugged country possible. That's where I'm going to kill an elk. Well, I got out there and I'm like, holy shit, like this is ridiculous. Like these mountains are way bigger than Google Earth showed me.
Oh yeah, man.
And the first night in there had a bugle. We heard a bugle, and it was just like from that moment on, I was just hooked. And spent 7 days living off our backs. We backpacked into an area and just never ended up filling the tag. I screwed up another encounter, and we had probably maybe 2 encounters on that trip that were in bow range and just screwed them up just from lack of experience and everything else. But when I got back from that, I was like, this is awesome. Like all I want to do is go out again. And the funny thing is, like, when you're on a hunt like that, it's not always enjoyable. Like, I'm making it sound like it's this, like, magical experience, and it can be when you're looking back on it, but a lot of times it's pretty miserable when you're in the situation. But what that did for me, at least, was it just helped me in so many other aspects of my life of realizing, like, the day-to-day stuff that people complain and bitch about aren't really that big of a deal. And it taught me a level of discipline that I may not have had, prior to that. I just loved that process of, planning for it and going out, really testing yourself. Cause the only thing you're thinking about out there is hunting, getting food, or you bring food. I'm not going to say I'm sitting there shooting squirrels or anything, but like, just as far as you got to find your water to be able to cook your food, water for the day. So you're focused on survival and hunting. And it felt like, that's what they did, hundreds of years ago. And that just, I don't know, something about that just, drove me nuts. And I wanted to, keep doing it.
That's awesome, man. Now, where about do you typically go? Or like state-wise, are you a Colorado guy, Wyoming, Montana? Where was your first hunt?
So up to this point, I've only hunted in Colorado out there. This year I'm going to go to Idaho and change it up.
Dude, but Idaho's awesome.
You've been to Idaho before?
Oh yeah, I've been to Idaho, Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, all those fun places.
Oh man. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm jealous of that. Like I love Colorado. Like I think it's the land of experiences. Like you can, almost all of the units are over the counter. It's so easy to, be able to go there and just, get that experience. But, I just like seeing new places. Like it's crazy. Like I'm sure that if I'd go back to the same areas all the time, that I could probably do decent, better than I have, as far as you learn where their escape routes are. You learn how the elk adapt to people. You learn how the people hunt the land and everything else. But I just like seeing new places. And that's kind of what has driven me to, go to Idaho this year.
That is awesome, man. I think you're going to love Idaho. Colorado's awesome, but Idaho's something special, man.
Yeah. Like where I'm going at is a little bit more of some open country mixed with dark timber. And that just gets me excited. I want to do some glassing, and all I've done to this point is basically running through the dark timber, running ridges and bugling, and that's fun and I like it. But I want to be able to see, I want to see what's going on first light, and at the end of the day, just kind of them coming out and feeding and trying to put together a plan on it. And I think that's an experience I'm really looking forward to.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, a little spot and stock action.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it.
So my buddy and I have been talking. We've been throwing the elk hunting trip around here for years, Anthony and I, and Austin. But we were just talking about looking into it, and like Idaho and Wyoming is two of probably the bigger states that we want to go to first when we do this. Idaho seemed like it was just amazing. Like you're saying, amazing territory, amazing terrain, just an unreal state for elk. But Wyoming might be the first one we go to just because it's a little bit closer. It's maybe a little more doable. I don't know. We'll see. But I look forward to hopefully getting out one day. We keep talking about it more than we end up doing it. But hopefully 2020 will bring some kind of out west hunting trip. I just met up with a good family friend, and she recommended somebody for an antelope hunt possibly in Wyoming that she has a contact out there. So that might be my first trip out there just to experience it.
Yeah, I've never antelope hunted, but a lot of people I talk to say like that's a really good introduction to Western hunting is, going on an antelope hunt. So that's something that's on my list. My brother's doing it this year. He's doing a Wyoming rifle, antelope hunt. He drew a tag and I want to go to Wyoming too to hunt elk. Like that's something I just never understood the state enough before. I never looked into it enough. And I was really, once I learned, like this year, I was really researching all the states and learning how their system works. And then just from talking to a ton of different people, I mean, Wyoming seems like a pretty great state for opportunity. If you get a tag there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of my family does a lot of hunting in Colorado, but more so my mom and my dad and stuff like that. They typically go a lot more to Wyoming, and they've drawn quite a few tags. And my grandfather shot, oh man, I don't even know, 5 or 6 pretty good bulls out in Wyoming, and it's definitely a big elk state for sure.
Yeah, and their success percentages as high as any other state.
Yeah,
based on just how many hunters are out there and everything else. I mean, it seems like the perfect kind of state, but there's got to be a reason why. I don't know.
Yeah, and the one thing I think that maybe has a little bit to do with it, I'm not saying it's everything, but Wyoming doesn't allow their non-residents to hunt wilderness areas without a guide.
Correct.
And that was kind of a turn off to me at first, but now the more I'm learning, like you don't need to be in a wilderness area, and I've learned in Colorado, the wilderness areas tend to bring more people because that's what's attractive to it. Oh, I can get, this far back. But I'll tell you one thing, I was hunting, our camp was set up 9 miles back, or not, about 8 miles back in, and we were hunting up to 11, 12 miles from the truck, and we were running into more people than I was in spots that were, 2 to 3 miles from the road. So it's not always about, going in as deep as you possibly can, because that's there's so much information on that now that's kind of what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
That's where the outfitters are too. That's where they're packing in and doing everything. So I've kind of had a different outlook on it. And this year, I'm going to do more truck camping instead of backpacking and just trying to have like literally 10 to 12 different spots picked out that I can bounce around to until I find the elk,
No, I don't blame you, man.
And be a little more mobile.
Yeah. So let me ask you, for someone like me that just were interested in it, but afraid to take the leap, would you suggest making the leap and planning a hunt out west similar to how you did it, just to find out the hard way what the experience consists of and what you need to improve and adjust to be successful? Or what would you have done different from your first year, just jumping out there and going and doing it?
So I would definitely say no matter what, do it. I mean, just go for it, because you're going to learn so much. But as far as how you want to scale it, I guess comes down to, all right, is this something you want to do every year? If it is, then I would do it the way that, I did it and just kind of went out there and gave it a shot and learn it. But if it's something like it's a bucket list item just to kill an elk, you don't really plan on going out, every year, every 2-3 years, then if you can save up the money to go with an outfitter and learn that way and maybe increase your success, rates, then that might be the way to do it. There's from the beginning, I was all, do it yourself. And I think there's a lot of pride in doing that, but you can, if you're an active member of the hunt and an outfitted hunt, you can learn so much that'll reduce your learning curve when you want to go by yourself, down the road too. So it all comes down to what your budget is, because you can go on a hunt like I did, a do-it-yourself hunt for around $1,500 to $2,000. That's everything included. That's your gas, your tags, food, everything that's included in it. And an outfitted hunt, you're going to look at a little bit more, probably 2-3 times that. But again, it all depends on what you want out of the experience to be able to do that.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
total sense. And
Absolutely.
I think for us, it would probably be maybe one of those every 2 or 3 year kind of deals, because I know once I do it and I hear the first bugle, it's going to be all over.
Yeah.
I mean, I got all hooked up on a damn turkey gobble. I know bugle's going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be prepared to go down a rabbit hole that's going to just, I just completely went all in as soon as I, did it for the first time. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, I see it on your podcast all the time, man. You talk a lot about out west hunting and the gear reviews and that kind of thing. And I think you have a ton of good information on your podcast. If anybody from this area, that's what's so great and relatable about it. You're from this area and you're making these trips, you're planning these trips, and you're going over everything you need to do to be, whether it's successful or just get you prepared for it. You have it. So
no, it's funny because like with the podcast, I tell everyone this. I'm like, listen, I do not have the experience or the success to back it up to even try to say that I'm an expert elk hunter or anything. I'll never pretend to say that. That's why I get people on the podcast that know way more than I do. And I just ask the questions that hopefully, everyone else is wondering themselves. And I know how to plan the hunts now,
Mm-hmm.
and to get into elk and everything else, it's just a, learning experience, and I'm going through it myself, hopefully, the increased success rates start to climb as they do with whitetails, because I've hunted them my whole life,
yeah.
and that's what I'm really, that's what I look forward to. And I, try to tell everyone else that it, whatever it's whatever kind of experience you're looking for. I just really think someone should give it a try. It may not be for you, but it might be something that's life changing. You don't know.
Let me ask you the hard question. Do you plan on staying in Pennsylvania, or do you eventually want to move out west?
Oh man.
I
go through that every day in my head. I just got back yesterday from Colorado. I was visiting my brother just for the long weekend. My brother moved out there after he got out of the military a few months ago, and I was out there and I was like, I want to live here so bad. And at the same time though, like if I could get a little bit more time off work to make a few trips out there every year, I think that would satisfy my need.
Yeah.
But I can't answer that question, one way or another. There's some days I'm fully in it, like I'm going. And then there's other days that I'm like, I really do like Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, in my opinion, is a great state. So.
No, I totally agree with that. But on the flip side of that coin, if you pick the right state, you can still hunt whitetails out there.
That's true. Oh, yes. That's it. That's why Montana has drawn me.
Yeah.
You can hunt big woods whitetails there. And I had a guy named Josh Boyd on my podcast talking about hunting whitetails, in the mountains there. And he's killed some absolute slammer whitetails. And then, you can hunt elk, mule deer, everything else. Not a lot of people pay attention to whitetails out there because, like in Montana, your whitetail, it's a deer tag. So it's either for a mule deer or whitetail. And most people are interested in mule deer. The whitetails are just kind of like rats to them.
Yeah, they get overlooked for sure.
I'm serious. Yeah, that's just the way it is. And I mean, Wyoming has great whitetail hunting. Idaho, Colorado is mostly the whitetails are on private land. So in the eastern side, but Wyoming, Montana, Idaho are definitely some really good spots.
Oh, yeah, man.
See, what the beautiful thing about that is then you get the resident prices in Montana, so you can take your time off and come visit back in Pennsylvania for super cheap because our out-of-state licenses are ridiculously cheap. And you can still hunt here.
Are you trying to make me move out there? Is that what you're telling me? Oh, man,
I'm trying to live my life through you, Beau. You see what's going on here?
Yeah, I know. I gotcha. You know what? I might just have to do that for you. One of my buddies moved out there from New York, and his name's Tim Bueno, and he's living. I can't remember exactly where he lives at out there, but he's living the dream. Like he's sending me pictures all the time. He's out scouting every weekend from whitetails to elk, everything else. And he's like, man, you need to make the move. And I'm like, you're killing me, dude.
That's tough, man. To pick up and move, and leave family and everything else. Again, it goes back to the Pennsylvania roots, You're doing this with your family, friends, loved ones. Like, this is what it's all about. That's why we stay here and, chase the whitetails and chase the dream here. And then when we can, we fill our bug elsewhere, but
yeah, no, that's a really good point. That's been my biggest hang up is I'm really close with my family and everything else. So that's been tough to consider doing that. I mean, I've considered doing it for a few years, but, and, coming back when I can to Pennsylvania, but family's huge for me. And I get to experience, that's like one of the best parts about, whitetail hunting here. And it's funny, most camps here, everyone gets together in rifle season where everybody in my family, we do that, but we take a week off. The first week in November is like every night everyone's up at camp talking about what the rut activity is looking like in their area and, everything else. And that's a special thing in its own.
Dude, that's actually really cool. I like that.
Absolutely. That's almost a little better trip. And we do that pretty much. We have that kind of tradition for the first of everything for the most part. I mean, first day of archery, we're up to camp. We're up there for the weekend before going into it or a couple days before the Saturday opener. First day of rifle, we're all up there. First day of trout, it's nice to get away and be with family and kind of experience everything that you love with the people that got you into it or started you into it. And that's kind of where our traditions go. That's the roots of Pennsylvania, and that's what we do. It's awesome. I wouldn't trade it for anything personally, especially even Montana. Wouldn't even trade it for Montana.
Yeah, you want me to live that for you.
Exactly. See, I do this all the time. I talked my one buddy into buying a saddle just so I could kind of live that through him and then, maybe experience it through him. It's an evil plan, but I have a good ending to that evil plan.
Yeah, when he gets sick of it, then he sells it to you, right?
Maybe just it was more on the I get to try it for free.
A little try before you buy.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to go down the saddle hole this year and just give it a shot.
Yeah.
I've been kind of closed-minded to it, for a while, and I actually tried one out and I'm like, man, these things are awesome. And it's just so lightweight. And for a lot of what I'm doing here, hunting and, the big woods stuff, and I'm scouting and hunting at the same time, I ground hunt a lot until I find, the hot sign. I'll set up right then and there. And when you're carrying around standing sticks, even though that, I have a decently lightweight setup now, it's still cumbersome to do. Mm-hmm. And when you're more apt to change and move with a saddle, in my opinion. So we'll see. I can't say from experience because I haven't done it yet, but
I think we're going that route. We're leaning towards that route. You've actually transitioned pretty much. I listened to your podcast with Greg Godfrey, and you've transitioned very similar to how we've transitioned. We've always started with climber stands. Climber stands were our mobile way of hunting, and then Austin started the game a little early on the mobile game, more of a sticks and the mobile stand. And then he got me into it last year, and oh my God, I'm not turning back from that. But then you introduced the saddle option, which takes that even step farther with lighter weight and more opportunity and possibilities. And it's like, oh man, what have I gotten myself into? I like my climber. I used to take good naps in that climber, but
Yeah. I believe me. Like you said, like in the podcast with Greg, I talked about it. It's like, climbers are my life. Like that's what I thought of mobile hunting. And then once I figured out, how to, the hang and hunt system, I've used hang-ons, but it was always these giant heavy stands with the big, steel sticks that I would carry and set up, at the beginning of the season and then tear down later, but it wasn't very mobile.
Yeah.
I was kind of stuck to that spot, and I had 6, 7 stands, and I'd have them set up around, and now I can use one stand really. I do use my climber still sometimes. If I find an area that's got some really big straight trees, I'll still use one. But, I don't like to hunt real high. I don't climb usually any higher than 10 to 14 feet. And so that's why it's nice because I can get in some weird looking trees that give me cover that aren't very high up with, a hang on stand and some, 3-foot sticks.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. That's kind of what intrigued me on it, because my climber was my life. But, you get out to a spot and you'd start looking around and you're like, well, there's a climber tree, but it's in the wide open and there's no cover. And then you end up 30, 40 yards away from where you really want to be. And,
yep.
Now this past year, I go to that same area and I find something 10 yards away, 15 or 20 yards away, perfect shooting distance to the lanes I want to shoot and, the areas I really want to hunt. And it opened up my world. I'll be honest, there's no way I'm going back to and I do a little bit of both. Don't get me wrong. I shot a deer out of a ladder stand this year, in one of the better spots, and I just stayed out of it all year long and went into it late season or later in the regular season, and I shot a doe out of it. So,
I agree with that. And one thing I learned when I was up in Alberta hunting with Jim Hole, he's a legendary, outfitter up there, and he taught me a ton. And they use all like the lone wolf stands up there, but they have pegs in the trees, but they have it's private land, so they can put, pegs right in the trees, and they have literally 180 different tree setups, but you just you hang the stand and take it down every day, but the pegs are in the tree. So, but the way he has all the stands set up is your stand's facing away where you plan to shoot, and you're basically standing the whole time, leaning your shoulder into the tree. And that just, once I figured that out, it makes a ton of sense. It hides your figure so much better too. So you can even get in an open tree and you're kind of behind it. And you can't always predict where the deer are going to come from, but if you have an area where you're kind of hoping they're going to come through, whether that's a logging trail or something else that's in front of you, setting up that stand the opposite direction and leaning into it that way has been really cool to learn how to do that. And I like trying to get as close as possible. I like those, 15, 20 yard shots. I mean, that's my, bread and butter. You really can, you can see every movement on the deer. You gotta be, good and on your game with it to be able to execute that.
No, I'm right there with you, man. I like those 15, 20 yard shots too. And, there's been a couple times where I thought I was going to push the envelope and I didn't. And I'm very glad that I didn't. But, deer don't always write the script or play the script out the way that you want it to. And, those 15, 20 yard shots make it so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about those, man.
They sure do.
Yeah.
I think
I want those, all day. And, if an opportunity presents itself further, I practice for that, but it's just, I try to have my setups closer. I hunt in a lot of, thicker areas and things like that I kind of, handicap myself with shots is just the way my setups are too.
Yeah. I think both of our deer were inside of 20 yards this year that we shot.
Mine was 20 on the nose this year. Yeah.
Mine was 8 steps. So it makes it nice and easy when you get those so-called chip shots. I'll tell you that much. It takes a lot of pressure off trying to squeeze off a 40-yard shot on an alert, mature whitetail.
Absolutely.
But there's one more thing. I know we're getting up there on time, and there's one other thing I really wanted to cover with you, Beau.
Yeah.
So what would it mean to you to draw a PA bull elk tag and fill a tag on a slob bull in your home state?
Oh man, you're hitting home right now. That's my ultimate dream is drawing a bull elk tag. And a lot of the reason is because I hunt a lot of these areas anyways for whitetails, and I live here so I can scout them, I'd love to be able to scout elk in my home state and, draw one of these brand new archery tags in the end of September and just I want to call them in. I want them to be bugling right in my face and I want to shoot them to 10 yards. That's my goal.
Oh, man.
It's funny because I always joke about it. Before there was an archery season here, which this will be the first year for archery elk, I would go out west and I'd come back here and go out with my bugle tube and call in a bunch of bulls just to make myself feel good.
That's awesome. I've been out there one time to look at the elk and drove around, and man, that is just some beautiful country. And to see all them elk, it's unreal. We have one hell of a herd, and I really do like the changes they've made to the seasons and the draws and the tag system and everything. You know, I remember years back, my dad got drawn for a cow elk tag, and he went out and he took an elk with his bow, and he was like, I think the only one that year to actually take an elk of bull or cow with a bow, and it was really awesome.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, he hit the redneck lottery. You know, it wasn't a bull elk, but still, he had so much fun doing it. And, you know, my cousin was there, and my older brother was there with him, and it was just one hell of an experience I know he'll never forget. And even though I wasn't there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was unreal, man.
It's a dream of mine to do that. And just like Pennsylvania, like you said, their herd is doing so well, and they are doing really good things with management of the herd, and now their hunting seasons, you know, they're getting better and opening them up. And I don't know if you spent a lot of time right around Benazet, that's one thing, but when you get into some of the extended parts of the herd, like out really in the middle of nowhere, which Benazet's in the middle of nowhere, but the elk that aren't like, you know, coming into the camp yards, it's like hunting them out west in a way. You know, they're not pressured, so it's a little bit easier to call them in and everything, but you can get some really cool remote country, and it's just crazy to see elk in, you know, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw the elk crossing sign, or kind of like we have the deer crossing sign down here, it scared the shit out of me. Could you imagine hitting an elk in a car?
Yeah.
And two, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, just being in elk country. And we drove all around that day. My wife and I, we just drove all over the place. And yeah, we saw all the elk in the campgrounds eating apples basically out of people's hands. Just these giant bulls. It's ridiculous to know that a few hours away or a couple hours away from home, you can go look at elk. And it's wild to me. You know, we're not that far from it. We're not that far removed from it.
Oh, I know. And like, so we go shed hunting for them every year, which in my opinion is tougher than, you know, there's more people out than there is the first day of rifle season for deer. Like it's crazy. But, I think it was a couple years ago, my dad found a set that pushed 400 inches.
Oh, man.
And like, just holding elk antlers that size is just like, are you kidding me? Like, these live in Pennsylvania. It's almost stupid. It's awesome though.
That is awesome, man. Well, we don't want to keep you all night, but before you go, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you and where they can find your podcast?
Yeah, so you can check out my podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, that, you know, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, all those places. If you just search East Meets West Hunt, or you can head over to my website, which is eastmeetswesthunt.com. Podcast is on there. I have some of my journal articles, as well as apparel that I sell to help fund the podcast. And then over on social media, Instagram, East Meets West Hunt, and then my personal page is at Beau, BEAU, Martonik, MARTONIK, and then over at Facebook at East Meets West Outdoors. So you can check that stuff out there, and if you're, you know, really interested in planning, you know, an adventure style hunt, whether that's out west or maybe in the Appalachian Mountains here in Pennsylvania or anywhere here in the East Coast, I'd love it if you checked it out and, you know, gave me some feedback and everything else.
Couldn't agree more, man. Your stuff's awesome, and I know I'll be listening to a lot of it and following along, and hopefully we can plan something between our buddies and I out west and just get out there and do it like you said.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And if you ever have any questions, you know who to ask.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it, guys.
Well, a huge thanks to Beau Martonik for coming on the podcast. That guy's awesome. I know we had to cut it a little bit short because of time, but you know what? He's a busy guy. We're busy guys. We both podcast. It's what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little short one, but man, we really packed in so many different really good conversations into a short episode.
Yeah.
It felt like a 2-hour long episode because we didn't ramble as much as we usually do and talk about dumb shit like I usually do. But it was good, man. And, you know, time constraints kind of hurt us a little bit with the Mesozoic era computer that we're working with here. And I think this thing thawed out from the Ice Age, and Austin found it and down in the Slippery Rock Creek, and he's been using it ever since. So it decided to do a last minute update on us and put us a little behind on schedule.
It did. We had to cut it a little bit short because of it, but it happens, and we're professionals, so we work our way around it.
That's right.
It is what it is. Maybe we'll just have to bring Beau back on again.
I think we need to bring Beau back on again. It'd be cool to meet with him somewhere halfway where he is and where we are, and just kind of shoot the shit and get to know one another. Because, like I said in the intro, this guy is so relatable.
Absolutely.
So relatable. And I'm only busting your balls about the computer thing. It may not have been the Ice Age. It might have been just after that.
Yeah.
The
Stone Age.
Stone Age, possibly.
Right.
But
right.
honestly, I can't even make fun of you because my computer was definitely before Moses' time. So.
Well, I mean, one way or another, we're gonna get a new computer soon. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be mo better.
We're doing just fine.
I agree.
And honestly, this might be one of our best episodes.
I like it, man.
It was really enjoyable.
Yeah, he's a good guy to talk to. I mean, the topics that we covered, I mean, they're kind of relatable to everybody, and I feel like they're kind of especially relatable to everybody on the East Coast.
Right.
We talked a little bit about deer hunting. That's kind of our bread and butter, but then we went into like everybody from the East Coast dream, going out west and hunting elk and just actually making time and just getting out there.
Yep, making that a reality.
Absolutely.
We think about it, and I mentioned it, we talk about it, and it's something that, as Beau mentioned, it felt unattainable.
Right.
But it's not. It's really not. You just have to I guess you just have to set aside the time and the money, and you have to be disciplined and put the time in to actually go out and do it.
Oh, yeah. No, man, I couldn't agree more.
But it was fun, and I hope if anybody needs that kind of advice, they really reach out to Beau, because he's one guy that would definitely help. And, he's like us. He's not going to ignore you. He's definitely going to talk to anybody that needs advice or help on something.
Absolutely. I mean, look at him. He came on our podcast.
Yeah, that's charity work. I actually signed off on his worksheet for charity hours.
Oh, beautiful.
Come on our podcast.
Yeah. But I do encourage all of you to head over and check out the Eats Meets West Hunt podcast.
That's right.
Just get on there, check it out. I mean, there's not a boring episode on there. You guys will love it, especially if you're looking to get into a Western hunt of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
He still covers stuff from Pennsylvania. He's a Pennsylvania boy.
Yep.
Rattlesnake hunting, just like Leatherwood Outdoors, bow hunting for whitetails, all that fun stuff. But his passion is going out west and hunting. So that's
I
cool.
agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think he has his own little niche there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But another thing too, I want to mention, go on his website and check out his blogs and some of his writing. He is a phenomenal writer, and he covers a ton of really good topics.
Yeah.
I was poking around on there today, just looking through them and reading through them. I mean, the man, he does it all, and he's just another normal guy from Pennsylvania.
I dig it, man. Make sure you guys check out all of his social media on Instagram, Facebook. He plugged it at the end of the episode, so make sure you guys head over there and check it out. It would also be greatly appreciated if you guys would go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We ask you guys to do this every week, and I noticed that a few of you have been doing it, so we greatly appreciate that. But it helps other hunters like you and other people who enjoy podcasts just like you to find our podcast and give it a listen. We would also greatly appreciate if you went over to our social media and checked us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Go Wild, Twitter.
I don't do anything on Twitter. I got to pick up my Twitter game.
On the Twitter sphere.
I fell off the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, it happens.
You would say that.
You guys know where to find us. We plug it each and every week. But you guys are the best. I don't know if we told you that lately.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys listening.
You guys are awesome. And there's more places to find us now. We came to find that you can find us on iHeartRadio. You can find us all over the place. So
anywhere the podcasts are found, you can find us. I also encourage you guys, we're trying to plan an out-of-state trip. You guys can always reach out to us and pick up one of our hats, one of our t-shirts, all that fun stuff. It helps fund this podcast, and it helps fund us to go out west and have fun stuff, fun experiences like Beau.
Live the dream.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. Let's end this because we're getting a little long-winded.
I agree. The distraction's real.
The distraction is real.
Let's go.